Sigmund Freud, the great psychologist who pioneered our modern understanding of the subconscious mind and also of psychoanalysis in the present day. A lot of our therapy and mental health services are rooted in his work that has stood the test of time. But today, we're going to be analyzing Sigmund Freud on a psychological level, an astrological level, which is going to get us an idea of the karmic energy, the karmic path, the spiritual evolution he was meant to take in his incarnation, and then alchemy, the transformational process I would recommend to him if he were my client back in the day. So for the psychology, left brain thinking. It should come to no surprise that Sigmund Freud is a very hypermasculine individual, at least from a mental standpoint. The way he looks at the world, he compartmentalizes everything, he breaks things apart and puts them back together. He separates the subconscious and the conscious mind, and that was his pioneering work. But he takes a very masculine, left brain, analytical approach to psychology and to the human experience in general, which is good in some ways and then also detrimental in other ways because, in my opinion, there was an over-reliance on his masculine perspective, which limits his ability to have a true understanding of the human experience because he's hyper-focusing on only half, which is the masculine, and neglecting the other half, which is the feminine. Materialistic, Jung would have called this extroverted. So extrovert is actually not outgoing in the sense that we tend to use the term now in modern days. It's been misrepresented in the modern age. Truly what extroversion means is just externally focused. So an introvert is more internally focused and an extrovert is more externally focused. And you could tell that Freud, even though he was a psychologist and was very, trying to think of the right word, hyper-focused and energized by psychology and one's inner state, he had a materialistic lens. He was looking at it from an external point of view because he was hyper-focusing on the external, on the body, and on sexuality, which brings us to the next point, hypersexual. His entire theory of psychology, of development, was rooted around psychology and sex. Mostly sex. That's what I didn't mean to say psychology, I meant to say sex. So he was very obsessed with our developing sexuality and kind of put it at the root of every single neuroses and every single pathology that he came across, and motivation in general. And while I will definitely not disagree that sex and procreation and extending the life of the human race isn't an important aspect of the human experience, you could see that he took this sex brush and painted everything with it, which kind of goes back to the point of that left brain thinking, analytical, but also rigid thinking, right? He had a very rigid mindset. He thought he had discovered it. It was all about sex. The boys wanted to have sex with the moms. The daughters wanted to have sex with the dads secretly. Women or girls were envious of the boys and the man's penis. Even penis envy, you can tell it's coming from a hyper-materialistic but also hyper-masculine perspective, just assuming that the whole world revolved around his masculine sexuality. And so that limited him in a lot of ways. And I would urge you to look this up when you have the free time, but there's also some scandals about him using his work, using his psychoanalysis to justify certain incestuous relationships or amongst his peers and his groups, because he was essentially saying that it was normal for a child to be, sexually attracted to their parent and that this was a normal, healthy dynamic. I would look into it when you have a chance. Just look up, incest, Freud. There's some sketchy stuff going on in his history. But it's neither here nor there. You don't want to get too deep into the conspiracy theory holes. Pause. Let's go to the astrology. So for the astrology, First, we're going to start off with the Ketu, South Node, North Node, Rahu axis. This is the path in our charts of our spiritual evolution. It's our path of our consciousness. South Node is where we start. It's our karmic comfort zone. It's where we have spiritually evolved the most over our past lives. Rahu, North Node, is where we need to go in this incarnation to balance it out, to achieve that balancing act. It's an area where we have least developed in our charts over our past lives. So with his South Node, he has Mars. Now Mars represents men. If you ever seen the symbol for Mars, it's the male sign. So that's where you're going to get that hyper-analytical left brain thinking, because Mars rules logic, linear thinking, reason, right? And it's also a very hyper-masculine planet. So a South Node there, he is very comfortable using his Mars. He's had a lot of experience there, but there's an over-reliance on his Mars. There's a pathological attachment to masculine, logical, rational, analytical thinking. It's also in Libra. So that means that he is all about exchanging ideas, but also exchanging things, working with others to get things that he wants. It's in the 12th house, which is the subconscious mind, and also the surrender and letting go, and also can represent hypnosis, because of that actions of surrender and letting go. So he's come into this incarnation already having a familiarity, a karmic, let's say a karmic attachment to the subconscious, to surrender, hypnosis, the subconscious, right? Everything. He came into this incarnation already having experience in that area, which is why he was such a pioneer. But with North Node, Rahu, in the 6th house, Aries, with Venus. So Venus is the feminine, female planet. If you see the symbol for Venus, it's the feminine symbol. So this is the least developed area of his chart. And we can see that just by the way that he comes from a super Martian approach and takes into account less the feminine point of view, or women's point of view. Venus also represents women. So that means that he's going to have problems relating to women or developing that feminine part of himself, his inner feminine. It's in Aries, so he has an interesting chart where the lord of his South Node, Ketu, is with his North Node, and the lord of his North Node, Aries, is with his South Node. So he has already, there's this balance. There's already an exchange happening between his Rahu, North Node, and South Node, lords. So that means he's going to be able to develop his Rahu and Ketu far better, far faster than your average person. Most people aren't blessed to have this planetary arrangement. So he already has experience with Libra things, with Venusian things, because his South Node is in Libra. But when it comes to his interactions with women and perspective on women, he's going to have some lacking, or certain distorted, illusory perspectives and ideas, because Rahu creates illusions, because it's an area of the chart we're not used to. So he was meant to work hard, the 6th house, overcome obstacles, overcome enemies, but also to pave his own way, be a pioneer, which was Aries. And he did exactly that. Because he had such a good configuration, he lived a long life. He's also intelligent and willful, and has a powerful chart. He was able to achieve his spiritual evolution, his path of conscious growth in this incarnation, but it was still distorted. And the main reason why, even though he accomplished this by paving his own way, working hard, and achieved that evolution spiritually with his Rahu Ketu axis, his South Node, North Node axis, I want to bring your attention to this Moon and Saturn, which goes even deeper than just the Venus-Rahu conjunction, which kind of amplifies or shows why he has such a masculine, focused approach to his work. The Moon is the mother. It's also the most feminine planet. It's with Saturn, which represents our fears, our traumas. It constricts things. It also can create separations. It's in the 8th house of emotional connection too. The Moon does worse, or has the most pain in the 8th house. When the Moon is with Saturn in the 8th house, that means he had a severe separation trauma with his mother and the feminine when he was growing up. And we don't know what happened, but something happened where he was not given the nourishment, the attention, the love the connection and skin-to-skin contact he desired when he was young. This is a convoluted way of saying he has severe mommy issues. And it's one of those things where I think that it was these mommy issues, these mother issues, this separation trauma with his mother when he was from 0 to 3, caused him to want to understand why. And what did he do? He took a hyper-Martian analytical approach. He exchanged ideas with people. He learned about the subconscious mind. He worked hard. He pioneered his own path. But it was all rooted in this pathological separation trauma, these mommy issues that he projected into his work, which made him very rigid in his thinking because he was coming from a very hyper-subjective point of view. Because our moon is our subjective experience. It's how we perceive the world from our limited point of view. And so for him, he was hyper-focused, but not realizing that he was being fueled by his trauma, insecurities, fears, and pathologies, which all great people are fueled by their pathologies. Otherwise, they would just hang out and chill and not have to be this big, grand person, right? So alchemy. So what would I recommend to Freud if he was my client or if he had been my client? First, Mother Ayahuasca. I mean, do I need to explain thoroughly, right? She is the great mother. He has mommy issues. Mother Ayahuasca is the most feminine, powerful psychedelic. He needs to heal his inner feminine and connect with his inner feminine. Mother Ayahuasca ceremony would be perfect for him, humble him, balance out his psyche so it's not so hyper-masculine, and allow him to surrender in a very real way, which would also develop his understanding of the subconscious mind and that space, which really is just kind of the spirit world, but I digress. Heal inner mother, going deeper, healing his relationship with his own individualized mother, internalized mother. I don't know, again, what happened to him, but something severe happened in the first few years of life, or even while his mother was pregnant. So it could have been a generational trauma thing, but something with his feminine. So going inside of himself, doing the work, I would guide him. We do some steps, some exercises, figure out what he needs to build that connection with his own inner mother, so he can stop projecting all his mommy issues into his work and onto other people and his clients with that transference thing that he always talked about. And if you want to heal your relationship with your inner mother, I have guided meditations and transformation exercises you can do. It's in the link down in my description for the transformation guide. Get it down below. And then also heal childhood trauma. You could also do this just by healing the inner child, doing an age regression. But for Freud, he's got a very powerful mind, very hyper-analytical. And so I think there's always an experience or always a good opportunity to humble the very arrogant, hyper-masculine mind. I was one of those people, still am to a certain degree. So I'm not even coming from a judgmental place, just more so of an understanding that when you come from that hyper-masculine perspective, whether you're a woman or a man, and you feel like you have it all figured out and you're very rigid in your thinking and you feel like you know what's going on, psychedelics are the perfect tool to knock you off your pedestal and humble you, period. And so doing some childhood trauma work with shrooms, to enhance the experience, give them a nice shellacking, a nice age regression through the psychedelics, because shrooms are really, really powerful for age regression, to do that work with your inner child, it would change his life. And I think he would have been a lot more aligned with Jung and his theories and his perspectives, as opposed to just being hyper-focused on everything is rooted in this Oedipus complex, sexuality, erogenous zone, philosophy, penis envy, women want to be men and people want to hook up with their parents kind of situation. Not saying that everything he did in his work was wrong. There's a lot of truth to it. I just feel like it was, again, rigid, limited, constricted in his thinking because of that Saturn-Moon conjunction and because of that Rahu-Venus conjunction where he was hyper-focused on the masculine, Mars, and underdeveloped in the Venus area with Rahu. Thank you for your time. Would love to hear your opinions and thoughts in the comments. Cheers.